Time to kick some ass. Ice Golem time. Let's see how good mythical champs are. Ice Golem was always hard as a beginner. Ashnar Dragonsoul. The Deadlands is no place for a scrawny and sickly child. Ashnar learned this all too well during his brutal childhood. The warrior life apparently unavailable to him, he was briefly apprenticed to a clan fire sorcerer, but only mastered simple cantrips. During one particularly scorching summer, hunts failed, water was scarce, and the clan could not support weaklings. He was cast out to die amid the sweltering temperatures and suffocating fumes of the Thundermount's foothills. A few days later, starved, thirsty, delirious, and wretched, Ashnar saw a mighty, reptilian figure with coal-black skin rippling with flame approaching through the haze. He doubted his senses, but it was no illusion. He was carried off by his rescuer, Sulfurion, the lizard demon bent on recreating the ancient Dragonkin Empire for the glory of Suroth. To Ashnar, it was a miracle. He swore his undying devotion to his savior. In truth, Sulfurion saved Ashnar to increase his followers' ranks, preying upon an outcast who could be easily molded to his cause. Ashnar's fealty to Sulfurion swiftly became a burning obsession. He nodded eagerly at every mode of apparent wisdom and knowledge, obeyed every instruction, and even the smallest praise and vaguest promise of future power were intoxicating to the once outcast orc. To solidify Ashnar's servitude and mark him an honorary dragonkin, Sulfurion gave Ashnar a vial of his own blood to drink. Abandoning decorum, the orc took it and gulped it down as if it was water, and he'd been lost in the desert for days. He apologized and thanked his master a dozen times before he felt its searing power within him. Later, Ashnar felt compelled to recall the lessons from his apprenticeship as a pyromancer and rapidly surpassed his old limits. He put the enemies of Sulfurion's new Dragonkin Order, Sacred Order Inquisitors, mercenaries hired by merchants Sulfurion had robbed, lizardman chieftains who saw his cause as blasphemous and dangerous, all to flame. When Ashnar was not defending his master, or acting as an enforcer of his will, he served as Sulfurion's emissary to sway more orcs to the cause. Though lizardmen were to be the promised ruling class, Sulfurion's new Dragonkin Empire would need warriors and laborers, loyal vassals, just as the empire of old once enjoyed. Ashnar worked miracles of shadow and healing flame, promising power and unshackled freedom to weak and embittered orc clans. Many pledged themselves to the cause, and Ashnar made scorched examples of those who rejected his offer. As word of Ashnar's cruelty spread, more orcs joined his forces without resistance, many wishing for the kind of power the emissary wielded. Sulfurion rewarded Ashnar's successes with new sips of his blood, and with each Ashnar's strength increased, and his connection to Sulfurion grew. Ashnar witnessed the Thundermount experience a minor eruption after several years of service to Sulfurion. Voluminous magma flows scorched paths across the landscape and burbled with the darkness that dwells in Teleria's molten heart. Ashnar saw a chance to truly show his devotion by communing directly with the essence of fire itself and gain even more power to help realize Sulfurion's goals. Curious and amused, Sulfurion agreed his servant could bathe in the Thundermount's searing lifeblood and stood by to watch. Fortified with one final dose of Sulfurion's blood, Ashnar waded into the largest, deepest magma flow and fully submerged himself in the molten rock, his flesh unscathed even as his robes burned off his body. Long minutes passed. Sulfurion and his retainers, observing from safety, dismissed the orc as an overambitious fool and turned to leave. It was then that Ashnar burst from the blazing river. His aspect was now of a mighty warrior, clad in armor of pure flame made solid, mimicking the scaled body of the mightiest dragonkin of old. In his clenched fist was a massive mace wreathed in tongues of fire. Taller, broader, muscled, poised, and radiating intense heat from his magic-forged garb, Ashnar approached Sulfurion. The lizard demon concealed his astonishment, remaining imperiously stone-faced. Ashnar knelt before him, placing his great mace at his feet. Sulfurion crowed with delight. He named the weapon the Thunderstar, declaring it a gift Suroth had bestowed upon them, and an omen of their righteousness. Ashnar retrieved the weapon and stood up, engulfed in a sulphurous curtain of flame. When it subsided, he was once again the Ashnar who had waded into the magma, clad in mystic robes and of less conspicuous stature. In turn, the Thunder Star transmuted into a pyromantic staff. In this form, Ashnar could conceal his monstrous power, the better to beguile and recruit his fellow orcs. Should battle erupt, he could transform into an armored, Thunderstar-armed juggernaut. Ashnar returned to his work, more effective than ever in swaying orcs to Sulfurion's cause and keeping order among Sulfurion's lieutenants. But Sulfurion became concerned by the power his servant had acquired. He brooded enviously on Ashnar's transfiguration and acquisition of the Thunderstar, wondering if Cyrith's favor had shifted to his disciple. He worried also that Ashnar's single-minded loyalty was to Suroth, not himself, and that some other demon's pawn might sway Ashnar's fealty in presenting themselves as stronger or more loyal to darkness. In mentoring, nurturing, and finally indulging Ashnar, Sulfurion believed he had created a monster, possibly one even stronger than himself. Tellingly, Ashnar had ceased desiring to sup on Sulfurion's blood. Ashnar, however, is oblivious to Sulfurion's unease and paranoia. He remains completely loyal to the great leader who rescued him from death and enhanced his power beyond his wildest imagination. He longs only to see the realization of Sulfurion's dream of a dragonkin empire reborn under Cyrith's guiding hand, stronger even than it was at its height. This empire created the Brimstone Portal after all, the largest gateway to Anathrad the world has ever seen. A new empire could create more, greater portals, and Ashnar is determined to stand at Sulfurion's side when they finally open, so he may cross through and bathe deeply in Anathrad's roaring, otherworldly flames.